Hello everyone, it's Marie and welcome to another video. So in this video I'm talking to you all about my outback experience in Australia and just what it was like, what kind of experiences I had, and I've had a lot of people kind of message me asking me to share my outback story. Honestly, the outback was one of my favorite experiences in the whole of Australia. It was completely opposite to what I thought it would be, and it was just honestly one of the best experiences I've had traveling as a whole, let alone just in Australia. So I'm so excited to share this story with you, and without further ado, let's just get into it. In July or August of last year, I took a bus 7 hours from Townsville into the middle of the outback to start working on an Australian cattle station. I found this job on a Facebook group. Someone advertised they wanted a female gardener for the cattle station, and I applied. I was lucky, I was one of the first people to apply. I managed to call her and convince her over the phone that I wanted the job, and I got it, and then I had to start a few weeks later, and honestly I was so excited but also really nervous. A few things I did before I went there just to make sure it was legit was I researched the station, I checked that it was a legit company, I asked for references from previous girls who had worked there, and I was able to conversate with a few of the girls on Facebook, so I was able to know for sure it was definitely a legit and good job. I also Google mapped the location and I did a video call of the lady and she showed me the place, plus I saw her family, her kids, her dogs. It seemed pretty safe and legit, and that convinced me that it was okay. So anyway, let's just talk about what the outback was like. I got picked up in the town Richmond. That was where my station was close to, but then it was an hour into the bush from there. So I had to get picked up from the bus station from some random guy I didn't know and driven an hour into the bush to the station. A couple of things I should mention: there was no Wi-Fi on the station and no phone signal, so I couldn't contact friends and family, and I couldn't use the internet, not once. And this is me, someone who makes videos for YouTube and loves Instagram and social media, and there was no internet for 4 months while I was there. I really thought it would be a bit isolated and secluded and a bit lonely. However, I was very wrong about that. It was a really social environment, and a lot of things I didn't capture on video that I wish I had was all of the dances and the races and the rodeos and the camping drafts. One time we went to a spouse hunters ball. We did all of the events and dancing, and it was a real fun experience. Just in general, the outback was a very social place. I was in a very small town with just a few hundred people, but because of that, you know everyone. Everyone goes to the same events because there's only one event a week, so guarantee everyone will be there. You know the school teacher, you know the police officer. If you want to stay out and party, you've got so many people's places to crash at because they all know you and everyone's friendly. So before I got to the outback, I didn't feel very welcomed in Australia, and I didn't feel like really happy here. And then after I worked there, that was when I suddenly started to feel welcome and like I loved Australia so much, and still to this day the outback has been my best experience of the country. Okay, so now let's get into the actual station and what kind of jobs we did. So warning out here to people, working on an outback cattle station isn't for the like light of hearted. It's definitely not for people who are easily upset or like vegan or vegetarian, and this is coming from someone who used to be plant-based myself, and I still don't really like to eat meat. But you have to have a tough kind of mindset, and you have to just get on with things. You can't just say, hey, I don't want to do that job. Like, you have to do every job you're given, and you have to get on with it. And there will be some things that are hard. There will be some things that are difficult. You're going to be working long days. I'm talking 5:30 a.m. in the morning until 6:30 p.m. at night. So you've got like 13-hour days, and you're going to be working from sunrise till sunset. And during the summer, like, these days are like 48 degrees. Like, it's hot. So that's something you also have to get used to. But if you can handle that, then you should be able to handle a cattle station. But some of the jobs we did, we would do branding. Another thing we did at the same time as branding is we'd tag their ears. I would normally do the job of holding the gun and then passing it to the person who would tag the ears, and I would like reload the tags onto the gun. So that was normally my job. I didn't ever brand the cows, but usually that was like the station manager or someone else. But I guess I could have tried it if I wanted to, but I didn't really want to brand a cow. It's something you've got to stand with and bear in mind and watch, and it can be upsetting for some people to watch. I'm gonna be honest, it wasn't that bad than you might assume. Like, the cows really didn't seem to care. They would lay down, they'd be branded, their ear would be tagged, and then they would just run off and play, and they didn't really cry or seem upset or even make a noise. Like, they just lay there. So for the most part, I don't think it was that cruel, because the cows didn't show any signs of being in harm at all. And trust me, I've seen cows that are upset or hurting or in pain. They make it obvious, and these cows definitely didn't seem like they were mistreated. So that was one thing that I guess gave me a bit of peace of mind. But it's just a job you have to do. So if you're going to work in a cattle station, you have to do something like this. You don't have the choice, unless you're doing like housekeeping role or station cook role. But even then, the housekeeper would be going out. I was the gardener, so my job was solely gardening, and I still a few times a week had to go out and do this kind of yard work. So that's why I'm telling you about it. Other jobs we would often do is when we were drafting the cows. So that means like maybe you put little cows into one area, mums into another area, and bulls into another area or something, I don't know. Either way, some people stand on the pegs and they have to like move the doors to open and close them for different cows to go in different places. Normally my job was like opening and closing gates to like let the cows through, and then make sure other cows couldn't get through if there was too many cows, so they didn't all squish each other. Some people did the backyard work, which is like chasing the cows in and getting them to go inside the gates. So there was all those kind of jobs which we did like pretty much every day. And then we often did a lot of walkouts and mustering. Mustering was fun because that was when, so basically, if you didn't know, on these cattle stations, these cows are very, very free range and very wild. Really don't get much human contact, and they are just completely wild cows. In cattle farming, so not in dairy farming, but in cattle farming, they do not separate the mothers and the babies. They all just live together their whole lives. Generally, they would just live out in the bush forever until they are sold for meat. So sometimes when a few cows were being sold, or maybe they were just being transferred to a different station, because the farmer we had a bunch of stations. So sometimes we would just load them onto trucks and they'd be taken to a different station to then live their life, or they would be moved to a different place, or sometimes they would be sold to other people. I don't know really where they went and what they did, but sometimes we would have to do mustering, which is basically where all the cows from the bush need bringing into the station so that we can load them onto a truck. So often we would do mustering either on horseback or on bikes. And if you do love horses, then maybe you would love an outback job, because there is lots of opportunity to work with horses.
Oh yeah, in the right mood.
And it is a really incredible experience, actually. I did ride a few times. I'm really not a confident rider, but even I rode a few times. And yeah, you just chase the cows on horseback, and it is really fun experience. My boyfriend Evo even got the opportunity to break in his own horse, because he just loves horses, and he got to basically tame a wild horse and break it in, and then it became his horse that he rode the whole time he was at the station, and he got to name it as well. So that was a really, really cool experience for him and for us to observe as well. I often drove the four-wheeler motorbikes because I really am not a comfortable horse rider. So my job was often riding the bike and then picking up the baby calves, maybe the ones that were less than a day old, that were too tiny to follow the mothers. They're being walked, these cows are being mustered. So sometimes they would go quite, like they wouldn't go fast, but the babies are so little they can't keep up, and the mothers don't wait for them. So my job was often to pick up the babies and put them across my lap while I was riding the bike, and I would have to like take them to their mums and carry them and take them to their mums and make sure that they weren't being left behind. So that was my job, and I really liked that job. That was really fun. But other cool experiences I got to have as well, like one time I got to ride in the chopper. That was so much fun. I got to ride all across the outback, high in the air in a chopper, like in a helicopter. It was honestly the most incredible experience of my life. I would say it's like huge high up on my list, and it was incredible. And yeah, I'm so good. I didn't film it, but I was just so busy observing and trying not to fall out of the chopper. But it was a really fun experience. Another experience that Eva got to do was sometimes he would have to throw out poisoned meat to the dingoes, and he would have to go in the back of the farmer's plane, and then the plane would go up and down, and Eva would have to throw out poisonous meat. I never got the chance to go into our farmer's plane, but that was another cool experience that some of us got to have. We also had to do some things like sometimes there would be a killing, so a lot of horses would be killed, and we would have to all cut up the meat to throw out to the dingoes. Other jobs would be, there would be a cow killed, and then we would have to cut up the meat and take it into the kitchen area for the staff to all eat for the month or two. So this definitely was in some ways not at all a job for people who, you know, struggle with cutting up meat or dealing with animals like that. Yeah, it definitely is one of them jobs where you just have to deal with it and get through it. And if you're really uncomfortable in those kinds of situations, don't do this kind of job, because it definitely yeah, it's not for the light-hearted at all, actually. It's really one of them jobs where you have to just be tough and just get on with it. But it was really fun. Like I said at the beginning, we had lots of social events and gatherings, and everyone at the station were kind people. I've seen some videos where animals are treated bad, and this is definitely not an example of that. So for the most part, it was a really awesome experience. The people I worked with were amazing. I got to make lots of local friends as well as backpacker friends. I got to meet my boyfriend there. I got to have the time of my life. It was just really, really fun. Like I said, my main job was gardening, so 90% of the time I was watering plants and mowing grass and watering grass and moving sprinklers and all kinds of gardening duties that I didn't actually film because it seemed a bit boring at the time, but I wish I'd filmed it now looking back. But yeah, it was really good. We got treated really well there. We got our own private bedrooms and we got meals included. It was an awesome experience. I met some amazing people and I had honestly the time of my life in Australia doing that job. So yeah, that's pretty much this video rounded up, I guess. If you have any questions about like how to find a cattle station job in Australia, I have already made a few jobs based on finding work in Australia. So please follow the links in the description and here to see how to find jobs in Australia and mistakes you might be making when finding your 88-day farm work, stuff like that. I have actually made a bunch of videos already about working in Australia on farms, so if you do want to know how to get these kind of jobs, please look in the description to see those kind of videos. And yeah, if you think this video would be helpful or interesting to other people, please share it and share it with your friends and show them what it's like working on a cattle station in Australia. And without further ado, I'm just going to end this here. Give me a like if you liked it and subscribe to see more videos about traveling Australia and also just nomadic life, location independence. I have been showing my journey on YouTube for over 3 years now, and there are so many more adventures ahead. So without further ado, I'll end this now. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.